Title: Taylor Swift cries bitterly as she furiously reacts to Travis Kelce's breakup message. Taylor Swift sat on the velvet couch in her New York penthouse, the evening glow of the city glittering through the tall windows. She had just finished writing a new song when her phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a message from Travis Kelce, her NFL star boyfriend. She smiled, expecting one of his playful texts or maybe a spontaneous plan for a late-night date. But as she opened the message, her smile vanished. Her heart dropped. "Taylor, we need to talk. I don't think I can do this anymore." The words blurred as her vision swam with tears. Was this really happening? She quickly blinked and reread the message, her hands shaking. Each word hit her harder than the last, sinking in with the weight of heartbreak she had once sworn to avoid. A whirlwind of emotions surged through her: shock, confusion, sadness, and a growing storm of anger. Taylor's phone slipped from her fingers, landing with a soft thud on the carpet. But she barely noticed. Her mind raced. Hadn't they been happy just a few days ago? She had watched him play with pride and excitement, had cheered for him louder than anyone else in the stands. They had shared late-night talks about the future, dreams they might chase together, plans that now seemed like shattered pieces of glass. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. This wasn't just another breakup. It was Travis, a man she had let herself trust. Someone who made her feel safe in a world that often felt too chaotic, too bright, and too lonely. She had opened her heart again, despite the fears, and now it felt like someone had ripped it apart. Suddenly, her sadness turned into fury. How dare he do this through a message he hadn't even called? The audacity of it sent a shockwave of anger through her. She stood up abruptly, pacing around the room, her hands trembling. She was Taylor Swift. She had conquered the music industry, faced countless storms, and written her life into existence through her songs. She wasn't going to let someone walk away from her like this without a fight. Grabbing her phone, she furiously typed a response, but her thumb hovered over the send button. Was this really how she wanted to handle it? A war raged inside her. Part of her wanted to scream at him, demand answers, and vent all the pain building in her chest. But another part, the part that had lived through heartbreak before, told her to stop. She knew better than to act in the heat of the moment. Instead, she did what she always did in moments of agony. She sat down at her piano, tears still falling freely, and let her fingers glide over the keys. A soft melody filled the room, and soon enough, the words came to her, words that captured the heartbreak, the betrayal, the confusion, and the anger. By the time she finished, her eyes were swollen, but her heart felt a little lighter. She had turned the breakup into something powerful, something she could control. As she stared at the song she had just written, she realized this would be the next chapter in her life. The pain wouldn't disappear overnight, but it would become part of her story. And she would rise from it, just like she always had. For now, she let the tears fall. But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of another anthem that would resonate with millions. And soon, the world would hear her side of the story, louder than any breakup message could. Title: Taylor Swift's heartbreaking reaction to Travis Kelce's breakup. Taylor Swift sat in her Nashville home, the glow of the city lights flickering through the massive windows. She had been writing a new song, the kind that poured out of her effortlessly, full of joy and hope. But then her phone buzzed, and everything changed. It was a message from Travis. She clicked it open, expecting a sweet, silly text from him, maybe a funny meme or a voice note from his latest football practice. Instead, her heart plummeted as she read the words. It was a breakup message. Not a call. Not even a face-to-face conversation. A cold, typed-out string of sentences that left her world spinning. Her hands shook as she read through the message again, not believing her eyes. Travis Kelce, the man she had fallen for, the man she had shared her music, her life, her heart with, was ending things just like that. "I can't do this anymore, Tay. I'm sorry." The words burned like salt on an open wound. Her heart cracked open as she realized this wasn't a joke. There was no explanation, no warning signs. How could he end things so suddenly? After everything they had shared, tears welled up in her eyes as the reality sunk in. Her breath caught in her throat, and before she knew it, she was sobbing, her chest heaving with every painful breath. She tried to compose herself, but the heartbreak was too raw, too overwhelming. Why didn't he talk to her? Why didn't he give her a chance to fix things? She thought they had something real, something lasting, and now it felt like a cruel betrayal. She furiously typed back, her fingers shaking on the screen. How could you do this to me like this, Travis, after everything? But before she hit send, her thumb hovered over the screen. What good would it do? It wouldn't change anything. The damage was already done. She dropped her phone on the couch and buried her face in her hands, her tears soaking into her sleeves. She thought of the future they had talked about, of the private moments, the laughter, the music they had shared. It all seemed like a distant dream now. In her mind, she started to piece together the fragments of what might have gone wrong. Was it the distance? The pressure of their careers? Or had he just fallen out of love with her? Her mind raced, and with every thought, the tears came harder, the sobs deeper. She didn't want to believe it. She couldn't believe it, but the message was there, staring back at her, cold and final. As the night wore on, Taylor's tears turned to anger. She stood up, pacing around the room, the silence of the empty house deafening. How dare he? How dare he end things like this, without even the decency of a real conversation? She grabbed her guitar, her fingers automatically strumming the chords she knew so well. But this time, the music wasn't about love or hope. It was about betrayal, about heartbreak, about the searing pain that comes when someone you love turns their back on you. The words flowed out of her, bitter and raw. You said you'd stay, but now you're gone. Left me here to carry on. You broke my heart with just one text. Now I'm lost. You're on to next. Her voice cracked as she sang, but she kept going, pouring all her pain into the music. It was the only thing that made sense anymore. The only thing that gave her comfort. By the time she finished the song, her tears had dried, but the ache in her chest remained. She knew this wouldn't be the last time she cried over Travis Kelce. The wound was too fresh, too deep, but she also knew that she would survive this. She always did. She looked down at her phone, the breakup message still open. With a deep breath, she deleted it. She would turn this heartbreak into something powerful, something that would resonate with the world. And when she was ready, she would let the world hear her side of the story through her music. But for now, she allowed herself to feel the hurt, because even the strongest hearts need time. Title: Tears of Stardom. Taylor Swift sat at a grand piano, the soft glow of candlelight illuminating the room, but her hands trembled too much to play a single note. Her phone lay on the bench beside her, the screen still displaying the text that had shattered her world. I think it's time we go our separate ways. I'm sorry, Tay. Travis. The words blurred through her tear-filled eyes. She had expected everything from the world: fame, love, heartbreak, but this. She wasn't prepared for this. The text came out of nowhere, like a gut punch from someone she thought she could trust. With trembling fingers, she typed out a message, but quickly erased it. She didn't know what to say. How could she? This wasn't just a breakup. It was a betrayal of everything she had begun to believe in again. After years of shielding her heart, she let herself fall, and now, as always, she was left picking up the pieces. She furiously wiped her tears, but they kept coming, hot and fast. How could he break up over text, after all they had shared? The nights talking about their dreams, the hours spent laughing until their sides hurt. The world saw her as strong, untouchable, but in that moment Taylor was anything but. She was raw, broken, and vulnerable. In a fury, she stood and knocked over the music sheets that littered the top of her piano. Papers scattered across the floor like fallen dreams. She couldn't hold it in any longer. Her chest heaved as a sob escaped her throat, and she dropped to the ground, clutching her phone in disbelief. Why? She whispered to no one. Why now? She knew the pressures of fame, the constant scrutiny. She had lived under the spotlight for years, but she thought Travis understood that. He wasn't just her boyfriend, he was supposed to be her sanctuary, her escape from the madness of the public eye. Taylor's mind raced through the last few weeks, trying to find the moment when everything went wrong. Was it something she said? Something she did? Maybe it was the distance. Maybe it was the media hounding their every move. Or maybe, just maybe, he had simply grown tired of her. That thought sent a fresh wave of pain crashing over her. For all her strength, her career, her accomplishments, Taylor Swift was still human. She loved fiercely, and when she lost, it cut her deep. As the minutes ticked by, the reality of the situation sank in. There would be no more stolen kisses, no more cheering him on at his games, No more secret weekends away where they could just be themselves without the world watching. It was over. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, jolting her out of her thoughts. For a fleeting moment, hope surged in her heart. Maybe it was him. Maybe he regretted his decision, and everything would go back to the way it was. But it wasn't Travis. It was her publicist. Need to discuss the breakup rumors. Call me ASAP. Taylor threw the phone across the room, her frustration boiling over. Even in her most vulnerable moment, she couldn't escape the weight of her fame. The world would know soon enough, and then they'd pick apart every detail of her relationship. Every song she wrote, every tear she shed. They'd turn it into headlines, gossip, memes, but they wouldn't see her on the floor of her music room, crying like the girl from Pennsylvania who just wanted to be loved. They wouldn't see the woman who had given so much of herself to someone, only to have it all crumble in a single text message. Through her tears, an idea began to form. Taylor reached for a pen and a scrap of paper. Heartbreak had always been her greatest muse, and this would be no different. She'd channel the pain, the fury, the disappointment into something beautiful, something powerful. Her heart might be broken, but her voice was still strong. And as the first lines of a new song began to take shape on the page, Taylor Swift realized something: she would survive this. She always had. The world might see her cry, but they would also see her rise. Stronger than ever. You broke me, but you'll never silence me, she whispered to herself as she wiped away the last of her tears. And just like that, a new chapter